I know how to pronounce your last name. Walsh, right? Done. Here
That
we
is
go.
correct. Now we're good.
There we go. Episode 145 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. Yeah, we're doing a Friday morning special edition of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. This is our weekly opportunity to come together to talk all things junk removal. This is the time for you to grow, scale, and build your junk removal dream. And for those of us in the junk removal world, there are top players. And today we got a top player, 18 years in the making, stand-up guys junk removal, world famous, internationally known, Casey Walsh. Casey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me. I'm glad you recognize the internationally known.
Yeah,
I don't get that enough.
There's 2 Canadian companies that have heard of you, so that counts as internationally known.
There we go.
All right. You recently celebrated 18 years doing the thing. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you got started, why you're still in it, what keeps you engaged, all the things.
Yeah. It's funny. 18 years kind of marks, if I'm doing my math right, I think now officially I've been doing junk removal just as long as I haven't been doing junk removal, because I started pretty early on. It's funny when most people ask me like, "Oh, how long you been in the business?" I typically think 10 to 12 years, because the first few years it wasn't really, I thought it was a business, but it really wasn't a business. It was just a kid on a truck. But I guess that's the learning curve that we all go through, is those first few years, just kind of working out the kinks. But yeah, I mean, I started very early. I was 19, 20 years old. Didn't really have many prospects. Didn't have, I didn't go to college. I was a little bit of a lost soul. So I was searching for something, and junk removal I've told this to people before, but I did not know what it was. And how I got started was, I'll get back to what I mean by I didn't know what it was, but I was working with my dad, who was a general contractor, and I would drive the truck and trailer for him to and from the dump every now and again when I was on the jobs with him, getting some window time. And one day I was getting ready to leave one of his job sites, and the customer asked me if I would remove or take a couch or something with me in the dump truck. And I kind of went to my dad and I was like, "Can we do this?" He goes, "Yeah, tell her $100." And I was like, that's insane. There's no way somebody would pay that. And so I went and told her anyways, and she gladly paid the $100. And something kind of went off in my head, and I was like, I saw physical money, not that I got it, but I saw physical money in that transaction. And that's when it sparked. And I think for the first 2 or 3 years, if you would have asked me, I would have told you I invented junk removal. There wasn't, this was before there wasn't YouTube videos on how to start a junk removal company. There wasn't, I don't even know if 1-800-GOT-JUNK was in the city I was in yet. It just wasn't, it was around, but it wasn't something that was prevalent. So I didn't even know it existed. So I thought I had invented an industry, which I later found out I did not. But that was kind of my humble beginnings long, long ago. But yeah, it took a long time for me to go from a kid that, had a pickup truck that I bought for, I think, $4,000 with money I had scraped up, and a dump trailer that I borrowed from my dad for 4 years, and just putting out street signs that I wrote on by hand, to kind of turn it into a business and getting employees and things like that. It took a little while, but long time ago.
No, it's almost your. I've never heard your story, and your story runs almost parallel to mine.
Is that right?
My father's a carpenter. To call him a GC would be a stretch. Kitchens, baths, additions. He'll be 69 next month. Still puts in doors, occasionally windows, but pretty much doors. He found that's his sweet spot. In, out one day. Not much material, and overhead just kind of bangs out. His name's Dan, so they call him Dan the doorman. He's been doing it 35 years. So, but the same thing. I didn't have the $4,000 truck. I had our parents' 92 Chevy Traveler van and a non-dump trailer. It's a shitty, utility trailer, wood sides. Yeah, in 2009. So I'd grown up going with my dad to nice neighborhoods day before trash day, and dumpster diving. And he was a flea market connoisseur. So dumpster diving was a way of life. And then in 2009, so in 2008, I was working for him, and same thing. I would do side hustles, side jobs, or almost verbatim what I would come in and move people's furniture or remove it before we'd come in and do like addition or things like that. So yeah, it was like $100, and it was like me and my brother were like, "Fuck yeah, we're rich." You're gonna pay me $100 for an hour, okay? And so I started banging jobs then with so in 2009, I got laid off in 2008. So in 2009, I started driving around north side of Milwaukee, picking up appliances on the side of the road in the green van and taking to the scrapyard. So I grew up in and around scrapyards with my dad. We would go to them. I was always fascinated by it. 7th grade, I did my science fair project on recycling. So I was always fascinated by that. And I started banging out appliances, and then all of a sudden people are like, "Hey, I'll pay you to come in my basement and pull it out, so you don't have to pick it up on the side of the road." I'm like, "Oh shit, you'll pay me to go inside? Like, double dip, let's go." And then I remember my aunt and uncle found out I was doing it, and they had a purple van. I remember it was a Ford like E350 van, and they're like, "Hey, the van doesn't work, but if you clean out all the brush in our backyard, we'll give it to you." I'm like, "All right, dope." And they're like, "It's like $400 to $500 to fix it." And I was like, "Oh, this will be awesome." I ended up being like $900 to fix it, and then I have $900. So I'm like, I remember so mad. I'm like, now I have this van in a shop that I used to do this job for, don't know how to fix, I can't pay for it. So yeah, I put like $900 of repairs on, and I started banging on appliances, and like that's my origin story. A green van that my other brother took to Colorado. I got a purple van. Same thing. I had a shitty utility trailer, and then the rule was my dad would park his dump trailer at my house because I had more room than he did, and then I could use it when he didn't need it. So that was like my go-to scrap trailer. Fill it with fair. So when I would go run scrap loads, I would use that, and then when I do junk removal, I use my utility trailer. And yeah, I did that 5-6 years with my brother and I and buddies, and it was beer money. And I was working, doing this other shit along the way. Deployed, came home, and then 9 years ago I got serious about it. And so to your point, you got serious quicker, and you've had the same brand. I got in the franchise world. I had 10 franchises across the country, sat through a 2-year non-compete. And so I've only been back at it now 3 years. So we've been able to grow and scale, but this is the third brand, fourth or fifth iteration of, I'd say probably fifth iteration if I'm really thinking this through in the last 16 years. So so in 18 years, have you always been stand-up guys? Has that always been the progression, or was there iterations along the way?
No, that was the name. I mean, that was the first name I had picked. I don't know how long into it I picked a name, but yeah, that was the first thing that I named it. That's probably 2009, 2008, something around that time. But yeah, I mean, like it's funny because I think about the progression of all this time, and like you telling those old stories. I probably learned more in the first 4 years about how to run a business than I did in the next 14, which is wild. Because like I feel like those hard times and like kind of starting from nothing and like scrapping through it is kind of when you learn the most about really what the business is.
Yeah, you get that 90% base, and then you never get to 100, right? So it's like you have this 90% I know. Yeah, like 90% I know what I'm doing, and then you get to like 95, and then conditions change, and now you're back down to 70. You're like, oh shit, wait, I'm right.
Well,
like
95% of knowing what I'm doing would be a stretch, and I've been doing it, like I said, 18 years, so I'm nowhere near that.
maybe it's a 95, like you think you know what you're doing. Like
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, for example, when I was doing it, I had it down 90, 95. I could do all the things. Well, as soon as I hired my brother, now I'm back to 50 because now I have to. Not only do I have to teach him, I also have to learn how to teach him because I don't know how to teach him. And he was my brother, 9 years my junior, so it's like I just told him what to do. And then we got employees, and I was like, oh shit, I'm back to like 40% because I have a military background. The difference is in the military, they can't quit. Like you yell at a regular ass civilian employee and he can quit. Like that was a learning curve that I had to experience,
Yeah.
Like what do you mean you're not coming in tomorrow? This is your job. Oh, you can get another one? Oh, we're a right to work state? Fuck.
Yeah.
Like that's what I guess I'm saying. It's like there's ceilings you hit and you got to break through them. It's your first employee, it's your first warehouse, it's your the first time you hire an integrator or general manager or somebody that is running the day-to-day. Now, actually, are you still running the day-to-day, or have you handed those responsibilities off through the years?
I've handed those responsibilities off. And that's why I was saying, like, a lot of like what I learned early on, more conceptually is when I learned the most. And like one of the biggest things that I learned conceptually, at least in my opinion, about business or about running a small business was replacing yourself. And I learned that so early on and then kind of kept that mindset throughout. So in the very beginning, my first goal was I got to replace myself in the driver's seat. And then, so once I did that, I actually was sitting in the passenger seat because I only had one employee. And then it was like, okay, now I got to replace myself in the passenger seat. And then once I did that, I was in the office, and actually when I was in the office the first couple of months, I remember thinking, I have no idea what to do with my time, but I filled it. I figured out, I started to learn how to run a business, like work on a business, not in a business. And then I was running the day to day. And then I was running the sales, I was running the market, I was doing everything. And then slowly over time, I've always found a way to try and replace myself and then get bored, because whenever I replace myself, I have nothing to do. And then I find things to do to work on the business. And then all of a sudden I'm back, I'm back in strategy. Before you know it, you're back to more tasks because you're creating more things, and then you got to replace yourself again. It's like, that's just been kind of the progression throughout. And it started with the simple concept of like, I'm in this driver's seat looking at this paper map, trying to book jobs and get to these places and then deal with these customers and make up prices on the spot because I have no clue what I'm doing. I mean, I literally I didn't even have a price sheet. I didn't know what I would probably walk up to people and ask them what they wanted to pay. I don't even really remember it, but yeah, just like those simple concepts of replacing myself has helped me tremendously through time. It's like, so you go through these ebb and flows, but like when you replace yourself and then that person, there's a system and a process in place, you can continuously grow from there. You can't grow if you're like, I would have never grown past the one truck if I didn't replace myself. And that's scary for a lot of people. I think they're always thinking, well, no one can do it as good as me. And it's like, well, one, that's not true. And two, if you think that, you're never going to leave the seat that you're in right now. So you kind of got to accept that like other people can do it just as good, if not, maybe good enough. And then you can work on doubling yourself or growing your business from there.
Well, that's and as you're saying this, so there's a book. Have you ever read 10X is Easier Than 2X, Dan Sullivan?
No, I have not read that.
Okay, so you're living that. Like, you take the time to read that, and it'll just reinforce everything what you're saying is, and what he's saying. And this is where I go back to that 90-95%. You were at 90-95% as a driver, right? You could do it all day, and you're like, oh shit,
I figured it all out. Yep.
Now, as soon as you go sit in the passenger seat, now you're back to 50% because half of the job, but now how do you lead someone, train them, coach them, mentor them, right? And you get back to that 90-95. Again, you're never 100. And then you're like, oh shit, now let me fire myself from this job and do another thing. Oh, now I'm and I've been there. I'm sitting I remember I had a desk in our garage and I had my paper maps and I'm booking jobs. Yep. I'm like, okay, the phone's not ringing. There's no emails coming in. What do I do? Like, what is it I do? Right. So then I would go out. I remember I went to senior living, so I was like, well, my phone's, our company phone was a cell phone. It's just a different number. And so I remember the one day I went out, I was doing estimates and answering calls, but I went out and did a senior living facilities. I went out to 9 senior living facilities and I was 0 for 9. And my yes or no metrics was, did I either talk to a key decision maker? I had a background working with Black & Decker. And so is sales. It's not always the same person in every store, right? Sometimes it's the general manager, sometimes it's the sales supervisor, sales manager, sometimes it's the hardware supervisor who you need to talk to gain influence, right? So the KDM, the key decision maker. So my metric when I went into senior living was either I got my promo material into the welcome packet or I talked to a KDM, a key decision maker. And I went 0 for 9 one day. I didn't talk to anybody and everybody said no to my welcome packet. And then when I came back and my brother did, I don't know, $1,000 that day with our one employee in our one truck. And I'm like, man, I didn't do shit today. Like I offered it. Like I went to all these places. I followed the plan and I fucking shit the bed. And he's like, all right, do it again tomorrow. Okay. Like, and that was like my business partner, my brother, the answer was always like, well, I guess we just have to do the same thing again tomorrow and maybe it'll turn out. Right. And then like eventually you get sick of sucking at something and you write innovation. And then the next day I went out and I was like 11 for 13. Right. So like collectively, I'm 50%. However, I started terrible. I remember the first time I was in a real estate office, to your point of presenting, they're asking me these questions like Q&A. I'm like, yeah, like what are some of the questions? I didn't know half the words they were saying, let alone the answer. I'm like, oh yeah, we can take care of that. No idea what that was. They're like, oh yeah, do you guys get lien waivers? I'm like, oh yeah, we do lien waivers all the time.
Oh yeah.
Got in the truck. Hell's a lien waiver? You know, like, I know what a lien is. Okay, it's a waiver. Like, right? Oh yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Legal Zoom later. Oh yeah, we got lien waivers. And then time to find out a lien waiver. Like, you go to Microsoft Word and get a lien waiver. It's like address. You don't owe us any money. Like, that's it. And yet at the time, like, oh yeah, we do lien waivers.
Yeah.
They had to know I was fucking making it up.
Yeah. I got myself in a lot of trouble early on saying yes to everything, because that's kind of how I was. It was, I would be laying sheathing in somebody's crawl space if they asked me, or even somebody on the phone would be like, well, do you guys clean roofs? And it'd be like, yeah, whatever's going to get my business out to your house, I'll say yes to. And then I got my guys calling me saying, like, hey, we don't have a ladder and this person wants us to clean the gutters or something. Like, I would get myself in constant trouble because it was always yes. The answer was always like, we'll do it. I'll figure it out. We'll do it. And it's funny because like that stuff early on has really kind of trickled into like the culture of what my business has become over the years. Even though it's grown far beyond me and just me on the truck, there's still like this attitude, like in all the offices, we have posters that just say GSD, which is get shit done. And it's kind of, no matter what it is, just find a way to do it. Whatever the customer needs, just find a way to do it. I mean, no, I don't have them cleaning out gutters, but for the most part, whatever the customer needs, these guys figure out a way to do it.
So the methodology I've taught, so I wrote a book about words, and I speak in sales and words, and it's yes, no, yes methodology. So this is what I figured out through entrepreneurship. At first, you did stage one, and you're already doing the next two stages. So what I'm going to highlight is what you're saying. So to our listeners, at first you say yes to everything because you don't know what a no is, because you're like, yeah, I'll do that. Right? There's some people that start in junk and will end up in landscaping or remediation or detailing cars because they started somewhere and they kept saying yes, and they were like, oh wait, this yes actually is better than my first yes, right? So you say yes to everything because you don't know shit about nothing. And it's not a no, it's you don't know, right? And that's fine. Ignorance is bliss. So start with the yeses, and then you earn the no's. And that's what I realized. No, we don't clean out gutters because we don't have a ladder. No, we don't pick up yard waste because the landscaper can do it better, right? And then I've learned the methodology of yes and. So it's yes, no, and then yes and. Yes and. Can I paint your house? Yes, I can paint your house. And I'm going to overcharge you, and it's going to be terrible. So now... right? The customer fires themselves.
I like it.
Right? So it's a yes and painting is always like, right? Or like I talked about this a couple weeks ago. The college hunks here locally did Christmas lights. They wanted to hang Christmas lights right? So they had this big thing, and remember a couple of people tagged me like, "Oh, this is a great idea." I go, "Yes, I can create. Yes, and we can do it. We have ladders. I have guys. We have trucks. And I don't have the insurance, and I don't want to do it. And I don't put Christmas lights in my own fucking house. So yes, I can do it. Absolutely. I will come uninsured with janky ass ladders and do a very poor job." And then people are like, well, that's not what I want. Sounds good. And now I even learned that methodology. So now my push now is, as I've built up my business, I'm really into keynote speaking, writing my books, doing workshops. And so I was talking to a client yesterday. I'm back in the yes phase where I say yes to everything in that business, right? And learning to say the no. And so now what I've done is graduate to the yes and, because I've started to figure out what my no's are. No, I'm not going to do this for free. No, I'm not. No, I'm not getting on a plane and spending $3,000 to maybe pick up at a second gig, right? Whatever it is. So now I say yes and, like, yes, I can do this, and this is what I need. And if they're like, well, we can't do that. Like, well, then that's my yes and. Yes, I'll speak at a conference for free. And I need my hotels, my airfare, and the conference comped, because I'll do it for free, but I'm not going to do it at a loss. And then people are like, well, we're not doing that. Okay, well, that's the gig I want. And I'll do it under these conditions. And if they say no, hey, sounds good. Looking forward to possibly doing it next year. Almost every time I use yes and methodology, they come back and meet me somewhere. And so so that's a methodology for young business. And you did that, right? Like, for example, can Casey get on the truck right now and go bang jobs? Yes. And the business will not move forward today because I'm the guy that moves the business forward. It also works internally with your guys, because as of January 1 this year, we brought in, last year I merged with another junk removal company, brought him in. He's our integrator. And as of January 1, he's running the day-to-day. So the first 7 months last year, he started in June. Those 7 months last year, he was learning it. January 1, he's the man, right? And so we're still in this, like, I'm doing about 25% of the integrator job, and throughout the year, I'm going to shed off that last 25%.
Yep.
And so I had a great conversation with my business coach yesterday. I go, okay, what is it I do? Because again, this is like the 37th time I fired myself in the business. So now and so he goes, his thing is be evangelical within the business, be the guy everyone looks up to, and also distance yourself enough so they know you're not the guy anymore. And it's like, oh, that's like I know I want to do that. Like I don't get the ego trip, but look at me, I'm the business owner, right? I want the distance.
Yeah.
I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to speak. I want to do all these things. And yet, even when I come in now, I don't walk the shop floor anymore. That used to be my go-to, right? Well, I'm intentionally withdrawing myself from the business more and more and more. And so now it's the yes and. Yes, I can do all the jobs in this business, and it doesn't reach my long-term goals or success. And that's what I really want to preach on this show. It's junk removal is merely a vehicle, right? Junk removal is not the thing. There's something else you want in this world, whether it's freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of purpose, freedom of relationships, or all four. Junk removal is how you get there. And that's the different mindset that'll propel you out of the driver's seat, out of the passenger seat, out of the operations office. What is the greater desire? What is the greater good?
Yeah, I would say that like I could not agree more. And I think one of the important things if you're starting a business is to define success, because success is different to everyone. And it's like I think it's really good to reflect as you're starting this, if you're getting into this, or if you've been in it for 5 years, and kind of think like, what is success to me? Because success to somebody could be, hey, I drive this truck runs full time and I'm on it, or hey, I run 2 trucks and I sit in the office, or my business runs completely without me, like, or it's just a dollar amount that I want, or it's a certain amount of it. Like there's all these different metrics, but success is different to everyone. But I think it's extremely important to define it so that you're not just kind of shooting darts in all different directions. Define the goal that you want. And I think you can get there. And I mean, talking about doing those things, you're like walking the floor and things like that that was a hard lesson for me to learn, and still is to this day, because there's certain things that I like to do that I have to keep myself from doing. Because you talk about going on the truck, it's like I've been doing this a long time. I still love getting out there because it's just easier. It's hard work, but it's a lot less stress. I like being out in the sunshine. I like dealing with customers. I like moving around. Like it's a lot less lower stress, and it feels good to do it. But I have to keep myself from doing it that often. Like I'll go out there for fun, because my whole thing is like, hey, and I tell this to my managers and operators as well. It's like, go on the truck because you want to, not because you have to. Like if I had to go on the truck consistently at any location, I'm not running my business correctly for the stage that I'm at now. And it's the same thing with the people that operate our certain locations. It's like, if you're on the truck ever because you have to, there's something broken. But just to keep myself from going out there has been hard for me. Or like for me to keep my hands out of everything. Like I work in an office where we run trucks. These guys will come in and they'll ask me a question, and my first instinct is to help them. And I've gotten better and better over time, where I just look over and I'm like, hey, he's the boss. Like he's the boss. You got to talk to him, because I'll stick my nose in everything, and most of the time I fuck it up because I don't know what's going on anyways.
Yeah.
But also it takes me, it puts me in a different spot. And so I have to constantly remind myself to pull back and don't do the things that are easier. Just don't do things just because you like to do it.
No, so it's interesting. So I'm never one that wants to be on the truck. Even to this day, I'm like, going to the field to bang jobs with guys has never interested me. Like I always had a little brother to do that, right? Like when I was picking up appliances, it was only me. Yeah. Like we hired our first employee before we had our first job. So I'm like, I'm not going on the truck. I'm a business owner. Look at me. Right. And so I never I was never evangelical about banging jobs. Now my brother, on the other hand, he'll go to every job. Even to this day, he's been out of our business for 5 years. And if the guy's like, hey, this is an interesting job, he's like, I'll fucking go. Like just because he wants to see what's there. Now, the flip side is I'm an operations guy. So I'm like, oh, the phone rang. Let me just stand here and listen to you answer it and make sure we route it right. And no, actually, we should put it here because this is better. Right. It's like, yeah, no. So like,
no,
me,
that's the opposite of me. I can't operate for shit. I am the complete opposite.
Oh yeah. I even when I come in, I literally go to the board. We use Jobber. I hit the buttons. I'm like, if you move this in this job for next like Wednesday, the routing will be a little bit better. Just put like smooth, it's like oh, instantly. Like so again, like I know my natural tendencies. And so I keep my happy ass out the office most days, right? Or like on a day like today, I came in, I said hi to Mike. He goes, the schedule looks good next week. I look at it. I go, okay, make me a cup of coffee and come upstairs. Because I know I can also sit in there for the next hour and tell him how much better than I am at his job. And it's not true. It's just back in my day.
We have every morning a big like a staple of our business is our morning huddles.
Yep.
And so every branch has a morning huddle, and I would find myself constantly, because I live here in Tampa, and I would come to the meeting at 7:00 in the morning, and I'd sit in on them, and I'd be having fun and blah blah. And eventually, my manager, to his credit, like leading up the chain, sat me down and he's like, "Hey man, you can't come to these anymore, because like you never shut up. You constantly interrupt because you know best, or you think you know best, and then like I take the power away from him." And so it's like there's certain things like that where it's like I felt like, oh no, I'm part of it. Like I'm trying to be a leader in this aspect, but no, what I was doing was taking the power away from somebody else.
Yeah, he
and then that's when guys come in and start asking me questions because they think I'm running the day to day.
Well, because you're making yourself available, because you are. They don't know any better.
Yeah,
the same thing happened in July. My integrator fired me from morning meetings, and I was like, good. I'm
good for you.
Say less. It was from July until Christmas Eve. I came in Christmas Eve because I gave away their backpacks and their Christmas gifts on Christmas Eve. And it was so we do Tuesday morning training. So we do an hour of training every Tuesday morning. Every day we do 15 minutes. So it's our 5-minute huddle and then 5-minute business or 10-minute business overview. Same thing. I would sit there and it's either one of two things. Either I jump in, or everyone's looking at the guy that's talking and then looking at me to verify that what the guy is saying is accurate. And if I'm not in the room, good. But and to your point, that's the other thing. When you are around and make yourself available, you take away all the authority that you want to give to the other guys. I had a proof of concept of this, that it worked. In October, we had this guy, Jermaine, started for us in like August, September. Like I knew who he was. I saw him from time to time. And again, I stayed off the shop floor. I come in, I do my thing. And it was middle of the day and he was in the office. We were doing a reroute of the trucks, whatever it was. And I came in and it was kind of fucked. And I'm like, all right, this is what you're going to do. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm just talking to my ops guy and my integrator who ops, he's kind of like you. He'll do jobs all day. Doesn't like, he'll just sit back and let me reroute trucks. Like that's not his thing. So as I came in, I'm like, no, do this, move this truck here. Yep, this is fucked, whatever. Like 3 minutes, unasked the situation and moved out. And then Jermaine and Jerome are two guys like went to the truck to go bang the jobs. Jerome's been with me 7 years. I mean, we've blood, sweat, tears, the whole 9 yards. And Jermaine goes, man, what's with that guy? He was loud. He was obnoxious. He came in like he owns the place, just telling people what to do. And Jerome goes, yeah, that's Andy. He's the owner. Like, you see all the pictures. Like, he's like, you see all the pictures of him in the warehouse? He goes, nah, I ain't never seen that guy. He goes, yeah, he owns everything. And he was like, oh, shit. Like I fired myself so hard. It's like, I know who Jermaine is. I've seen, I never was like, hi, Jermaine, my name's Andy. I'm the owner. I'm in charge. It's like, no, I'm not, and he was like, oh, I thought, so coincidentally, my business partner's name is Andrew. He's like, oh, I thought Andrew was the owner. And Jerome's like, yep, no, like he's a business partner. He's part of it, but he ain't the founder, main cheese kind of guy, So that was proof of concept, and the business runs better. 100%. Business runs better when I'm not here. I can say that. Don't bother my ego at all. And that's what I want. I want the business to run well when I'm not here. Yes, there are times where I can be like, this is the best way of doing it based on best practices and past performance. And the time that I get involved there is when my integrator calls me. At that point, when he's like, all right, I need some perspective. Like a month ago or so, he was doing this job. It was a $50,000 plus estimate. And he goes, okay, I've only done one. He's only did one other bid over 50 grand. And he's like, basically, what am I missing? What do I need to consider? What, I want you to look at this. And so I gave him some pointers and he goes, see, this is where I'm lacking that experience. I go, well, here's the deal. Your one estimate and my 100 estimates I've done at that range are both valid because I'm going to bring in past biases. I'm going to bring in shit that didn't work. I'm going to bring in, past employees or trucks or trailers or things, how we used to do things. And you're looking at it from a fresh perspective with what we have now today. So my answer isn't necessarily better or more right. It's another perspective. And so then him and I come together and then he presents his findings to the overall team. So it ends up being his answer, his idea, and he's merely seeking me as mentor. And that's the dynamic we have now. And that's the dynamic that works really well. Now, the difference between us and you is we have one site. Our only goal is to have one site so we can make our one site real decent. Well, how many sites do you have now in Florida?
Well, so we actually started in Georgia, so that's where I was founded. Yeah, so we have we're in 6 cities. We have 8 locations in 6 cities.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
your scale is different because now you're so wide. There's a lot of stuff going on in order for you to oversee.
Yeah, so that's I learned that lesson hard over time though too. Where like early on, I had to realize that one, it wasn't all about me, and two, like you have to learn how to, you know, run the business without being in the day to day because you physically can't be in the day to day. And one of the things I found too is like I think giving ownership is kind of, that's the whole kit and caboodle to me when it comes to growth. Is like you have to give ownership, and it starts down at the bottom. I mean, I shouldn't say bottom, but it starts with the guys in the field. So instead of, an operator, I'll tell them, you don't want to be on the phone and tell these guys between, what to do before each job and then where to go. Like I don't like the micromanagement of like telling them every little thing to do all the time. It's more of like set the goal, send them out, and let them take ownership over their day, and they learn a lot more. They take ownership over what they're doing. Then I believe in turn, they care more about what they're doing. And when they care more about what they're doing, they're going to make more money, higher profit, better customer service, and longer tenureship. Like all those things that help run a business comes from ownership. But guys won't ever take ownership unless you give it to them. Because the amount of times you've probably heard it, other people say like, you can't find any good people, or you can't find good help, or this or that. And it's like, no, just look in the mirror. There's a lot of people out there that they want to be good at what they're doing, but you're not giving them ownership. You bring a guy in and you tell him every little thing to do, he's just going to do those things. And then as soon as a decision needs to be made, if he's never built the muscles to make decisions on his own in your business, the moment a decision has to be made, he's just going to stand there and not know what to do and wait for you. And then it's like, well, these idiots can't make a decision on their own. Like the times I've heard that stuff, and it's like, no, that's your fault. Like that is your fault. And then it's the same with someone for me that's running a location. I don't sit there and hound them day to day every single day. It's more of like, hey, we're going to talk once a week, once a month, once a quarter. But it's like, we're going to talk about the overall location. We're going to talk about the metrics we want to hit. We're going to talk about the goals. And then it's like, you go figure it out. Like you make it happen. This is your location. This is your branch. It's like, I try to give them ownership, and then I want them to give their crew leaders ownership. Like those are all the things that keep people engaged, in my opinion. And that's kind of how, at least I've scaled. It's not always the easiest. I don't know anything about franchising, but the way we're doing it works. We enjoy it. We're all like kind of a tight knit family. And I've had a lot of guys that stick around for years and years and years. I got some employees that have been here. I got 2 guys that have been here 16 years. But a lot of that stuff comes, I believe, from giving ownership and teaching them to take ownership too.
And what you taught is ownership is a byproduct of buy-in, because there's 2 ways to get people to do something: buy-in or compliance. And what you're talking about, you say micromanaging. Compliance is you will do this. This is the how. I'll give you the what and the how. That's compliance. Chaos is I'm going to give you neither the what or the how. They'll say, go bang jobs. It's like, well, be better, right? Very vague, right? Like, have a good day. It's like, what does that mean, right? Right? The what and the how. The what has to be SMART goals, right? Singular, measurable, obtainable, relevant, time bound. They got to be tight. We have to be able to say yes or no, we hit it. So you say, hey, SMART goal, do $2,000 a day in revenue. Okay, that's the what. And here are your jobs to do that, right? Maybe it's only $1,700 and you got to learn how to upsell, or you got to come back, or you say dollars per hour. Yeah, it's only 1,700. Come back and run them very efficient. So we hit our $100 an hour, run rate, whatever our goal is. For us, ours is $100 an hour per man, right? So that's where we set the bar. So winter here, it's 90 because everything's slower, right? Snow on the ground, in, out, whatever. But in the summer, our goal is $100 an hour across every minimum. That's where everyone's hitting. You give them the what, and then you give them the authority and the autonomy to figure out the how. To your point, it is a lot easier to give them a what and the how day one and just feed it to them day one and feed it to them every day. The challenge is they'll never take ownership. They'll never step up. They'll never be intuitive enough to come up with their own ideas because you never give them the space to do it. So giving people the how, they're going to fuck it up. They're going to fuck it up. You're going to be paying for lessons that you've already paid for yourself. And yet it's much more sustainable long-term when you give them the autonomy to figure out the how. And then they'll come back and be like, actually, I figured out a better way of doing this. And you're like, oh shit, never even thought about that.
There
Right?
you go. Yeah.
Because they're looking at it from their perspective. Your perspective got you where you're at. Their perspective is going to get you next level. And to your point, it's not it starts with the frontline employees, the day one guys. There's day one guys. When I see them, I'll say, hey, what'd you learn today? And they'll tell me something maybe I've never even known. Or something like, oh yeah, yep, soulful sleepers are heavy.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, make sure you put a bungee cord on them coming out of the basement so they don't fucking explode in the middle of the hallway. Right? Yep, got it. All right, like that's what you learn. There's other times they teach me stuff that I hadn't known yet. It's like, oh, that's interesting. That's a hot take. And now I'm increasing my knowledge base without, getting my boots dirty.
Yeah. I love the what and the how, and the third leg to that for me when it comes to getting buy-in, which again, I love that buy-in versus compliance. That's something I talk about all the time. And I love that you said that, but is the why. There's a why for everything. And when you're dealing with people, if you don't explain to them the why, it does just kind of feel like, well, I'm just doing this thing. Like I tell people constantly, like start with the basics. So there's why. Like, why do we tuck in our shirts? Like even the basic of like, why do we tuck in our shirts? It's like, well, because we want to be professional. We want to be treated like pros. You want to look like a pro. And so, even those simple things of, you don't just tell a guy to tuck in his shirt. You tell him to tuck in your shirt. And here's why we tuck in our shirts. And I think all of that leads up to all the different things that like you want to implement in your business, or you need or you want employees to do to help grow your business, to provide a better service. But if they don't know the why, it's hard for them to buy in, and then it just even to them would just feel like compliance. Like, oh, I'm doing this new thing because the boss told me to. And if it's like if that's why they're doing something, you're never going to get full effect. You're going to get checking the boxes. You're not going to get the enthusiasm to the business. You're on mute.
That's what happens when I blow my nose in the middle of the show. Put myself on mute. Thank you. Fucking Zoom call. We've been doing this for 5 fucking years. Goddamn Zoom. We're still on mute. Anyways, no. I love this. That we run EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. So it's about our core focus, our niche, right? And it really comes to our value. Our values is what comes down to. So when we have it all over, we have it in our signage. We talk about it every morning. Our 5-minute huddle every single day. We talk about a fundamental of the week, and we make sure we hit the value, right? A value tying the fundamental to a value, or tying what we've seen this week to the fundamental or value. Because once we have that why, Simon Sinek talks about that, right? Begin with the why. When you begin with the why, that's the overarching, right? And that's bigger than the owner. That's the company why, where everyone is evangelical about it. And now we hire, fire, promote based on values. We can always teach capabilities and competence. It is our value that we hire, fire, and promote and demote theoretically off of. And then it's very obvious to us and even to our guys. They're like, hey, this guy, give him more responsibility, or this guy got to go. Why? Okay, it comes back to this value. They're not hungry. So our 4 values are hunger, dependability, camaraderie, and esprit de corps. And every single time we hire or fire or promote somebody, we can tie it back to a value. And for us, you have to be green across the board in all 4 values in order to get promoted. And if you have any reds, if you have any no's, you're already gone. To your point about why. I mean, go ahead. Go.
Well, I was just saying, the why can be so it can be overarching, but so important too. And I always go back to tenureship and like taking care of employees, because like to me, especially in our business, we don't have proprietary software. We don't have there's not a lot that's going to separate me from a franchise or chucking a truck down the street. So it really comes down to everything is about employees to me. I mean, you can talk about metrics, you can talk about advertising, you can talk about branding, you can talk about everything under the sun, but the real underlying thing that's going to make you different than anyone else is your employees and their customer service, how much they care, and all of that comes from the why. And I mean, even to the point where it's like to talk to a guy and explain why they want to be good at what they're doing here. Because sometimes it'd be like, this is just another job. Well, why does it matter if I do this or that? They're telling that to themselves. And I tell guys, it's like, why you want to be good at this? Because even if you don't stay here, this is going to translate to other things in your life. And it's like, how you do anything is how you do everything. So be good at this. So then when you move on to other things in your life, you can be good at that too, because you're not going to come in to stand-up guys and be a hauler on our truck, which is the easy, like it's the base level, the beginning entry level job. And if you suck at that, you're not just going to go on to something else and be great. I mean, people can change, obviously, but then you're going to have to go somewhere else. You're going to start at the bottom. You're going to have to learn all these new things. So it's like, be good at this now because you care about yourself. You care about your future. You care about being better because it's going to translate to everything else in your life. And it's like, those simple conversations can take 5 minutes and can change the course of someone's like life or even their tenureship with your business. Instead of saying like, this guy's a lost cause or you can't find good help, it's like, sit people down, ask them how they're doing, give them the why, like try to make people better, because there's not just, if you run your business based on, I hope a unicorn walks through the door that's just going to be this great employee that shows up on time, that does everything and just cares a lot. It's like, you're going to be waiting a long time. And maybe that unicorn will walk through the door, but that'll be once in a blue moon. You need more than one to run a good business.
Yeah. I love what you're saying there. It's like that 1 5-minute conversation can change the world. And think about all the energy you take complaining about people or bitching about, trying to find people. It's like, what are you doing to retain the guys that you got in the field right now? How are you engaging with the guys? Because 5 minutes from the owner of the company, 5 minutes from the manager, for the person that thinks they're not seen in your organization, that could be the reason why they stay. And you can also put in no shit, more formal things like stay interviews. Right. And like with us, we do a minimum. We have an annual review and quarterly conversations, we call them. And hey, this is your quarter. What do you want to achieve this quarter? I mean, I this one guy, Jay Sean, he came to us this summer. I mean, he was 50-50. He could have not showed up the next day and no one would even notice he was gone. Right. Because he was whatever. Yep. And then the one day he's like, I want to learn how to drive the forklift. It's like, all right. So it took him a month, right? It's like spend a little time here and there. And he's like, all right, I want to learn how to drive the box truck. It's like, all right, let's get you on the box truck. Now, this guy is 6'6". He's a wide receiver in high school and JUCO. Quietest guy, nicest guy, just like very, very mellow. 2 weeks ago at Tuesday morning training, we're doing role playing over asking for reviews and asking for referrals. Right, we do a thank you card at the end. 2 guys volunteer. Jay Sean goes, hey, I've never done this before. He is the quietest, shyest guy in the world. He goes, I've never done this before. I want to try. He went up and he did it, right? And then he's a driver. He's not a crew chief. So we have drivers and then crew chief. So drivers either drive a second vehicle in tandem or they drive the crew chief, depending on what the schedule looks like. That day, later in the day, he goes, let me try. And he got a review. First time he's ever even talked to a customer, right, of substance. And he got a review. Why? Because it's like, well, he did the forklift and then he did the box truck. And it's like every month he's like, I want to accomplish something new. Because to your point, he could have been an entry-level guy that didn't show up the next day. Or he's the guy that's like, oh, a little bit of investment. Now when I see him, he came up to me. He's like, man, I asked for a review. I go, how'd it go? He goes, we got it. He was so ecstatic. Yeah. And again, he's a quiet guy. I'm a talker. I like the guys that are a little more boisterous. I like the, yeah. I mean, you know how difficult it is to have a podcast where I'm not doing all the talking. I do the interviewing. Yeah. I talk at people. I'm on a podcast so I can talk to you.
The thing that, like, that story too, though, speaks to me on something that I talk about a lot too, which is, we have female employees as well, but for the most part, we're male dominated here. And what I tell what I try to teach into my operators, because I look at them as like, they run my business, right? So it's I talk about them a lot, because to me, the crew leaders and the crews that are in front of them, they're our forward face. They are the business, and their leaders kind of depict how things are going to go. But one of the things I tell them is like, look, one predictable thing that I believe about, especially young men, is they want to be good at what they do. That's just kind of the way that most people are. There's always going to be there's going to be exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, young men want to be good at what they're doing. And it's your job as a leader to define what that means. So it's like you sitting him down. It's like, hey, like, by doing this, or, like, let's use this script and get a review. It's like, by getting a review, you succeeded in what you did there. So it's like that feels like that hit of dopamine or whatever, the serotonin or whatever it would be, of like succeeding in what I tried out to like wanted to do, and then being good compared to my peers. It speaks volumes and helps tremendously when you're dealing with multiple employees. They all want to be good at what they're doing, but if a leader is not defining what good means, whether it's metrics, service, and then also acknowledging when they do it, they don't know. And so it's like, define what it is, and they'll always go after it because they want to be good at what they're doing.
Yeah, or they self-select out. Right? When you make a target small enough, we had a guy recently, actually same exact situation as Jay Sean. This guy came from Big Blue, 3 or 4 years of experience. He worked at 800 guy junk and then 2 men in a truck, junk removal site. So he's got 5 or 6 years of experience in junk removal. He came, and we always have people whenever we do role play, sometimes it's round robin. Everybody has to participate. It's like, great, it's fucking 7:15. We're eating donuts and it's getting uncomfortable. I'm glad you're uncomfortable. I'm glad you don't want to do this. Good. And now you will stand up and do it. He refused to do it one day. We're like, okay, right? He was gone that week. It's like, all right, good. Yep. Like, we made the target so small. Stand up and role play and look stupid in front of your fellow employees. Good. Because of course, like when we role play, we cater to, the first time a guy does it, we're very receptive. And then we're not receptive because we want to see, again, this is basic sales, right? We're in a conference room with 15 other dudes. Like, it's going to get stupid. Right. And of course, like, we got this one guy reach us, and it'll always be the housewife, like, oh, hey, honey. Oh, I'd love to give you a review. Right. It's like, how do you like not break character? You know what I mean? Or you get like the angry guy that's like, I don't technology, Google, I don't trust the government. It's like, how do you overcome objectives? It's like, let's have a little fun with it. But again, we had a guy that, no, he not even refused to talk to the customer. He refused to participate in our role play game. It's like, cool. We want guys that are hungry. Good, you're not hungry. Like, less, right? So you make the target small enough so you can very clearly see it if they hit it or they miss it. A lot of people have these very high level philosophic ideas, like, we want our employees to do this and this and this, and they show up. Like, no, make it so small. Like, hey, we 25% of our jobs, like one of our metrics, we want 25% reviews on all of our jobs across the board, right? 100% of the time you hand out a thank you card. So even to the point where, like, well, what if it's a lockbox, right? What do you do then? Leave the thank you card, like, fill it out, leave the thank you card on the table. Realtors do that all the time. Realtors are in and out of houses. They leave their business card on the table to show that they were there. Like that, they're like, really, just leave a thank. I'm like, yeah, because you know what? Somebody else can come in that house at some point and be like, oh wow, Camo crew was here and they left a thank you card. That was nice. It's like, hell, that's even simpler than talking to somebody, right? Or if it's customer, what stops you from calling them on your way out? Hey, job's wrapped up, house is wrapped up. We would love to send you a review. Can we send you a text message? Oh, here's the text message. Like, you still have the conversation. Like, it's that little simple innovation, because it's like, have a conversation with your customer about a review. That's our that, and give them a thank you card. Those are the two expectations. Not go get a bunch of reviews. We know when we do that over time, we'll hit our metrics. And we also know, guys.
But also part of what you said, though, sorry to cut you off, is also an important lesson that is hard. It took me a long time to learn, but like an extremely important lesson is you owe it to your guys to have a standard. And when that guy doesn't meet the standard, you don't just accept it, because if you accept that standard of him not standing up and participating, then all of a sudden that just becomes, that can slowly become the culture before, and then you're not doing it anymore. So it's like the moment, like, you owe it to everyone else there as the leader to not allow someone to not meet the standards, and if they don't work here anymore. Like, that is like, you owe that to like, what do they say? The quickest way to get rid of an A player is to watch you accept or tolerate a C player.
Yeah, in the military, what we say is, once you accept when someone does something out of standard and you don't say anything, that's the new standard. And so
whatever you tolerate.
Yep. And also, it's not like slow, like, it'll slowly erode your culture, but instantly, once one guy sees, like for example, ground guiding. We had a guy who was on a performance improvement plan because he didn't trust his ground guiding. He hit a car. So he's on a PIP, we call him, right? Performance improvement plan. He in our own yard backed up without a ground guide, right? That was it. Like, hey, man. Like, and the other thing we do is we communicate effectively with our employees. Every single employee that was there that day, we told them, and we told everybody else the next morning, hey guys, this person is no longer with us because dependability is one of our tenets, right? Say what you do what you say. This individual said he was going to have a ground guide, said he was going to follow the plan. He didn't. We fired on the same day. And he was one of our top performers out in the field. And then when you fire him, then we hear, oh, actually, he didn't do this. He didn't do this. He didn't do this. He didn't do this. It's like, good. So when you catch people doing the right thing, celebrate. When you catch them doing the wrong thing, correct it instantly. And what happens is either people fire themselves within 30 days because they're sick of getting called out because they don't want to follow the plan. They just want to get away with it, right? Or you draw a hard and fast line. So we call it our triple S. So safety, security, satisfaction. When you violate one of those things, gone. Like that, it is a non-negotiable.
Yeah, I mean, I already said it before, and I use this analogy a lot because it's the simplest. But like I'm always telling everybody, it's like we tuck in our shirts. That's a part of what we do. Yep. And I tell the managers, if you got a guy that you're complaining about that's not tucking in his shirt, but I walk in and I see someone else not tucking in their shirt, it's like they're not doing it because you're tolerating this other person. And sometimes it's like, well, Billy been here a long time and he makes great numbers, so it's like he gets leeway. It's like, no, because as soon as he gets leeway, everyone else looks at that and that's what you tolerate. That's what the standard is. So it's like, good luck getting one person to do something if you're not making everybody do it.
And inspect what you expect. Here are the expectations, and put things in place so that you can inspect it. And then it's catch people doing the right thing. And when you see people doing the right thing, celebrate them and celebrate loudly. Don't be like, hey, good job. You did a really good job. I don't want to let anybody else know, but you're really our top player. No, this motherfucker right here. Let me tell you something what he did last week.
Yeah.
Right. So every Tuesday morning we have employee of the week where employees nominate each other that showed value, that they displayed values throughout the week, and they get a $25 gas station gift card. And like, so now it's like, now our leadership team's not even trying to catch people doing the right thing. Have your fellow employee catch you doing the right thing.
So your employees nominate the employee of the week?
Yep. And
I love that.
So we'll do up to 3 nominations. So like, Casey, like,
can I nominate myself?
You cannot nominate yourself. You can nominate. So I can nominate Casey. And then the other thing, again, I'm all about talking and speaking and public speaking, as we know. You have to stand up, nominate the employee, tell them what they did and how it related to one of our values. And then once we have 2 or 3 nominations, everybody else in the conference room votes which one wins the employee of the week.
I might steal that one. I like that. I like that a lot.
Absolutely. We also had it. This happened a couple weeks ago. Regis won 2 weeks in a row. And Jerome, who almost never wins. And Jerome's the old man. He's been here 7.5 years out of, we've been in business 9. He's been here 7.5. It'll be 8 years. He's been here all but 1 year. Like 2 weeks in a row, Regis and Jerome were the 2 employees nominated. And 2 weeks in a row, Regis won. And the second week, Regis gave the gift card to Jerome. He's like, because it wasn't about the gift card. It's about
winning. Yeah.
It's about winning. And he's like, and it's all about being nominated. Like, who gets nominated every week? Right? Like, and we look at that because now, and what they're doing is they're now, again, that ownership. They're now taking ownership. They're also spending my money. Who amongst you, right, gets the gift card?
Yeah.
It's not, Tuesday morning meetings, I'm not there. One of the things that, again, to your point, Tuesday morning meetings, the problem was when I was there, it's like, oh, everyone's just looking at Andy the whole time. I'm not even talking. They're like looking for me to verification. You know what? That's the guy's time. If they want to bitch about me, hey, the forum is created. Andy's not there. This is the driver, the driver's crew chief's time to be them. And we do one full, this is probably unheard of in our industry, or it is every time I bring it up, people are like, really? We do one full day training every quarter. We shut the business down for an entire day each quarter. So we do our quarterly.
Oh, everyone gets trained.
Everybody. Our entire company shuts down for 1 day every quarter. And so we do our quarterly meeting through EOS, and it's normally the week or 2 after. So we'll lay out what are our objectives this quarter, what are the rocks, and then from there, a week to 2 weeks later, depending on timing, we shut down either Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, shut the whole company down for the day. We do answer the phones that day. So Emmy, our executive assistant who's remote, she'll answer the phones for the day to make sure we're still taking care of our customers. We don't book any jobs. Everybody comes in at 7. We do a big breakfast. I kick things off with a 45-minute state of the company. They know exactly where the numbers are. Our guys know our daily goals. They know all our numbers. Even the guy's been here 1 day knows how much revenue we did today and what our goal was and where we're at. And we talk about expenses. We talk about EBITDA, right? We talk about our values. We talk about all these things. And then we spend the whole day training. We do a big lunch. And that investment we make every quarter, that I'm around because now I'm the cultural leader and I'm around. And it's for us all go kumbaya. The weekly training
Yeah.
they do, though, the weekly training is my integrator's not even there all the time anymore. He's pulled himself. So it's our service manager and our operations manager. They facilitate the training because at the end of the day, those are the guys making the donuts, right? That's the team that's got to make it happen. So again, like you said, when you're around the office, they'll walk past the person in charge to go ask you because you're more in charge and you're really not. The perception is. So when we do even our Tuesday morning training, I told my integrator, you don't need to be there. When you're there, you're taking away authority from Casey, who's our service manager. You're taking away authority from John, who's our new operations manager. So yeah, those are. I'm all about investing.
Yeah, shutting the whole place down once. You said once a quarter.
It's 4 days a year. We got 250. Here's the math of it. Here's the Hillbilly math. We got 250 working days a year, right? If I take off 4 days,
I thought it was 311.
I don't work weekends.
250? Oh, you don't work weekends? Okay, man, good for you. Weekends.
Yeah, we do e-waste. Ever since COVID, the demand for Saturday service has been almost nil. I mean, so last year we did 19 e-waste events on Saturdays. This year we'll do 12 to 15. That's it. We don't work Saturdays or Sundays otherwise. We answer the phone or it goes to a third-party AI. We do not bang jobs on Saturdays. The demand is not here in our market.
Really?
If the demand if the demand was higher.
So it's our slowest day. It's always been our slowest day as well.
Yeah.
Which has always been odd to me.
Pre-COVID, we ran half staff. So we would run 8 to 2, and we'd run like 2 or 3 trucks instead of, at the time, we had 6 trucks. So we ran half staff on Saturdays. So anyways, 250 working days, but here's the Hillbilly math, right? I invest 4 days out of those 250. That's 1.5%. That's it. I'm willing to risk one, right? And on months, so like in January, for example, we had a training day in January. So we count the working days in January. So we miss out on the first because it's a holiday. We miss out on the training day. So we take our number, whatever it is, divide it by number of working days, and that's the goal. So when you go from 21 working days to 20 working days, the goal only goes up a couple $100 each day.
Yeah, and you're front loading the work. I mean, that to me is like, I think that's brilliant. It's like you know, instead of training when all of a sudden there's an issue and now we have to like you train. I like that a lot, and it's like I talk about that here a lot too when it comes to, I say, front loaded or proactive work, where put in the work early so that the work is less later. Like that's like when an employee starts here, the most important thing with a new employee is the first day to 2 weeks. Like that, like you do it right. Like put in extra effort to sell the business, train the employee, like and really like put your arms around them and bring them in as part of the family. You make the next 2 years a lot easier on yourself. And then it's the same with, hey, I tell everyone, like when with the morning huddles, if you put 80% of that day's energy into your morning huddle and really hammer everything first thing in the morning when you're the leader in front of everybody in the morning, it's going to make your day easier. Don't just, if you half-ass that, the rest of the day you're just make your day even harder from there.
Here's the deal. You're going to spend the time and money either way. Would you rather spend the time and money in the front end proactively? I talked about this with a lawyer years ago. I said lawyers are probably a 10 to 1 ROI. For every dollar you spend before you sign a contract, right? I thought, like, what's a prenup cost you? $5,000? What does a divorce cost you? Probably 50, right? Like, even I know how much it cost me to get out of my franchise. Had I spent $3,000 to $5,000 making sure I was protected, maybe I wouldn't have spent as much as I did exiting the franchise. And so it's no different than, right? I talk to people in junk removal. Would you rather pay me to clean your house up, out so it looks nice and sells well, or sell it because it looks like shit and you got to pay me to clean it up the day before close? Either way you're paying me, would you rather get the ROI now or later? And so it's no different than our employees. Do we wait till we have an incident? Do we wait till a guy continually fucks up and we fire him? When you fire an employee, guess what? We got to go hire another employee, which means we pay.
You got to start over.
We paid to hire this guy and train him poorly, right? So do you want to train 10 guys poorly and talk about how there's no good employees, or spend all that time, energy, and money on one guy, maybe 2, maybe he is a turd? Well, you're not going to have 10 turds in a row, right? So take that same energy, put it into 2 guys, and one of them is going to be great when you invest on the front end.
But I also think when you invest on the front end, like you're saying, that money's going to get spent either way. It's like it also probably going to save you tons, save you a lot of time, a lot of money. Yes. Tons of money.
I'm saying, like, let's assume it's only a break even. I'm saying you're going to get your ROI 3, 4, 5, 10-fold, right? The problem is it's an abundance mindset versus scarcity, right? Hey, I have an abundance of time, energy, and money right now to invest in this person versus oh, we got to get this guy in the truck. We got to do it. And I am evangelical about this because for the first 7 years, we didn't have Tuesday morning training. We didn't do quarterly fucking training. We didn't have orientation until this year. Like our orientation was show up at 7, we'll put you on the truck. If the guys don't say you suck, then we'll give you a t-shirt. And that was kind of
3 years ago, if you would have said, "Hey, what's your onboarding process?" I would have said, "What is that? Like, what are you talking about?" And I've seen a big difference when it's like, "Oh, we take the time," because, like, I do say the first 2 weeks is important. Yeah. We actually just hired. It's funny. I was talking about this yesterday to like reiterate kind of some things that should already be already known. But we hired a new guy here in Tampa yesterday, and I talked to the OM here for about 45 minutes, like just like doubling down on my beliefs of like the first day, the first time, like the moment he shows up to this office in the first 24 hours are the most pivotal. Because like it's their first impression, so you don't want a guy to show up and then kind of like look around and like, hey, who am I supposed to meet here, or hey, like not knowing. So I was like, the moment this guy pulls in, you need to be standing there ready to shake his hand when he gets out of his car, so he's not taking any time to figure out where he needs to go. And then the first thing you need to do is you need to introduce him to everybody. You need to make him feel welcome, and then whoever he's on the truck with, if it's not you that day, that person needs to know beforehand. Like, you don't want someone to be like, oh, I'm training this guy today. Like, it needs to be, everything needs to be put in beforehand. It used to be, all we ever did was, hey, if you want to work here, we just do working interviews. So just show up and you get on a truck, and then we would go through guys like, they would be like, man, we gotta hire 10 guys before somebody sticks. And now it's like, no, you pretty much hire one and they stick.
Yeah. So the other thing we implemented this year is we do interviews now. We never did interviews. It was like, show up at 7, we'll put you on a truck. So this is our new litmus test. We do an interview. We do 7 a.m. interviews. So far.
Make sure they show up.
So far, we are 50%. We've had 2 7 a.m. interviews. One guy showed up. He's been great on our trucks. The other guy didn't show up at 7 a.m. We lost nothing.
Yeah.
This
there
morning
you go.
We had 2.
I like that.
I haven't heard yet. So that's the thing we do. Second thing we do is we do an orientation day. So we do an interview. Then you come in on a Wednesday to do orientation. We spend a couple hours with you, 2 hours, with either our integrator or our service manager, talk about the company. This is where we're at. This is what we're doing. And then he takes you out to a job. This I took from UPS. UPS had a whole week, 1 week training program at UPS. And so he takes you out to the job. So the guys in the truck know that you're coming. The guys in the truck aren't expecting you to be the 3rd guy or 4th guy. You're just extra bodies. So now the crew chief can take the time to teach you, and you're not slowing down. It's not like, hey, we need 3 guys. Oh, you're the 3rd guy. No, we need 3 guys. You're the 4th guy. Right. And we're going to take the time to teach you as we go through the motion. So you're getting a little extra muscle. And then from there, they get the buy-in from the guys in the team. They feel like they're part of the team. And then they show up the next day and they're like, oh shit, yeah, this is my team. I'm good. I love the idea though. We haven't done this, and this is a great opportunity. Part of my litmus test on the interview is, can you figure out how to get to this address and park and be an adult and show up like not at 7:05? Right. Like that's the litmus test, right? If you call me at 10 after, if you call me at 10 to 7 and you're like, hey, I think I'm here. Okay. That's part of what we do at the jobs. There's plenty of times you roll to people's house and you're like, is this the address? How about we call? Like, oh yeah. It's blah, blah, blah. You got to pull back here. I do love the idea though. On day 1 though, I've thought about this. A couple weeks ago, I was down in Orlando doing a speaking gig, and I walked in and they had a big sign on they have a screen in their lobby that says, welcome, Andy. Excited for you to be here today. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. Right. So something that simple, day 1, celebrate that person on their first day of business. Make sure everybody in the company knows, hey, Casey's starting today. Show him some love. Get excited about Casey. Yeah. Like he's going to make all of our lives that much better and enrich this company versus, oh, there's the F&G, the fucking new guy. Oh, I'm stuck with the F&G today. Right. Like again, it's the same test of new guy day 1. It's how does the company respond proactively to have that guy feel like he's part of the team? Huge difference.
Yeah, and a little cheat code, like what we do. It's funny that you just said that about Orlando, because so we have televisions at all of our offices that we'll run the meetings on and stuff. And that's one of the things that like we do is we put welcome to the new guy on the TV when they get there that day. So it's like just more of a, when somebody feels like they're going somewhere, it's like, oh wow, like they want me here. It hits a lot different. And when things are hitting different for somebody, they're more likely to invest early on. And if they invest early on, they're a lot more likely to stay. And like for anyone, especially if you're starting new or you've been doing this a while, it's like This is not small potatoes when you're talking about employees. The people you hire and how you train them is literally going to be the difference between how your business drives, because that's the only thing your customer sees. You can have the nicest website in the world, but if you got a couple of dopes that show up that could care less about your business and treat the customer any kind of way, they're never going to remember you. And all they're going to think about your business is the two guys that showed up. Like that is your storefront, is the employees that show up to their house. So it's like everything is important when it comes to those guys and how they're trained.
Awesome.
And who they are.
We're already 10 after the hour. This conversation can keep going. I knew this was going to be a good episode. I know, right? This is like 2.5 years in the making. I look back at LinkedIn when I first added you, and we jump back and forth. Like, oh, let's do it here. Let's do it here. And then life happened. So,
well, because I read your book. That's what it was. I read your book early on. It was pretty good too, by the way.
Thank you. I'll take a raging endorsement from internationally known stand-up guys, Casey Walsh. I was telling somebody last week from Canada, they're like, "Oh, I know stand-up guys." So I was like, "All right." So I put that in my head. I was like, "Got to make sure he's
international." There you go.
Yeah. Banging jobs across the Florida Georgia line, plugged to that country. Man. I think it's country. I'm originally from Stone Mountain, so Atlanta area.
Okay. I'm from Marietta, so right outside of Stone Mountain.
There you go. All right. See, there we go. Yeah. There we go. We closed the loop. All right. We'll have you back on the show 6 months or something, whatever, just because there's so much more to talk about. And I keep saying this. I have no idea if it's true. You got to be one of the top, 5 independent junk mold companies in the country. I don't know, top 10 as far as size and scope, non-franchise, non-PE firm. You're up there, right? And you're a known person. So taking the time today, letting people know about your journey, because actually I'll get to my top takeaway and we'll get yours. My top takeaway from you is defining that success, because if your success is to bang jobs and take care of customers and not have a job, good. You're going to be a one truck operation. If your goal is to hang at home, answer the phones, 2 truck operation. If your goal is going to be like me, have enough freedom and wealth to pursue other passions, I got 1 locations, 20 guys, I'm happy. That's where it gets me. And in your case, right, you got 8 locations in 6 different cities. That was because you had a different version of success. And so the only person that people need to compare themselves to is who they were yesterday and who they want to be tomorrow. And when you do that, you'll pave your own path, because the goal is not that you're Casey and stand-up guys. You're not Andy and Camo Crew. You are you in your brand, and it gets you where you want to go in life. So I was really interested to hear how you got where you're at, how you scaled. I love the fact you talked about the first 4 years. You didn't know the hell you were doing. One of our listeners texted me yesterday. He's like, you told me to do 100 jobs before I knew anything. I go, yeah. And then once you do 100, get to 1,000. And then you might start to know something, right? Because I didn't know shit. Hell, even the podcast, I said the first 100 episodes, we're figuring this thing out. We're 145 episodes into this thing, and I'm still like, what are we doing? Fine. And we're still fucking doing it, right? Like, we're doing a Friday morning show. Good. Never done that before. Good. We're doing a Friday morning show.
Love it. Yeah.
All right. So what's your top takeaway from today's conversation? Something that people, to leave them with something.
My top takeaway from talking with you, or just in general?
It's your world, baby. I'm living in it.
All over. Well, the first thing I would say is, like, I do always love hearing other people's stories, because it's funny how similar our stories are, and it's always important, I think, to realize too that, like, you're not special. A lot of people are going through some similar things. The thing that I would leave with, I guess, for anyone that's like getting started, or they're in business now and they're trying to think, like, where do I go? Or, like I said, defining success is really important. But I think the thing to really think about a lot of times on your day-to-day decisions and as you're moving forward is to avoid the path of least resistance. I think about that a lot. I think it's really important to be uncomfortable, because they say growth is right on the other side of your comfort zone. And you'll make, especially as a small business owner, you're going to make 1,000 decisions a day. And it's very easy to get caught in the habit of taking the decisions over and over and over that are the path of least resistance. And I think that kind of leads you down a road of just kind of mediocrity. So I think that would be an important thing, that, like, listening to your story and then, like, even thinking about my own, is like the times when I grow, or when I don't take the path of least resistance and I kind of get out of my comfort zone, because your comfort zone is going to keep you right where you're at. So if you want to grow, you have to start taking things that are a little bit more resistance, and you have to start trying new things. And I know it's cheesy, but it's like, you have to get out of your comfort zone if you want to grow.
Oh no, that last bit there, I wrote my entire book on that. I live my life by that, right? And so you're right. What you want is the other side of fear, and on the other side of fear is discomfort. Like you get uncomfortable, and you'll get over the fear, which I love. And you are preaching. Read 10x is easier than 2x. You are preaching that, and that's what it is. You got to
say it one more time. Say it one more time.
10x is easier than 2x.
So not the 10x, not the 10x rule.
Not Grant Cardone. Dan Sullivan, 10x is easier than 2x. You're already living it. All it's going to do is tighten up what you're saying. Like, when I read that, I'm like, oh yeah. I'm just like there was no convincing whatsoever. It was like consulting that I'm on the right path and how to do it better.
Yeah.
How to articulate what I'm doing. Right. Essentially the lesson is take the top 20% of what you're doing and do that and fire the bottom 80%. Eliminate, delegate, automate, whatever this 80% is, and that do your 20%. And then in 2 to 3 years, your 20% becomes your 80%. And redo it again. And so that's what you talk about. Everything from being the driver to the guy in the truck to being operations to having the first site to having the second site. All those things you're constantly firing yourself and only focusing on that top 20%. And when you do it intentionally, then everything you look at, you have that new lens where you're like, hold on, this does or does not serve my end state. And it's very simple. This is either 80 or 20. For us, we use in our business because either 10x thinking or 2x thinking. And so 2 days ago, my business partner texted me. He goes, you're doing 2x work right now. I go, you're absolutely right. I'm doing 2x work right now. Right. And that was like, right. He didn't tell me he didn't tell me not to do it. He said, hey, what you're doing right now is 2x. And it was it. I was doing his job. I was doing the integrator job. Why? Because it's comfortable. Because we got a new employee and I want to add her to the calendar and do all this shit. And he's like, this is my job. I go, this is your job. And I fucked off. Right. And again, it wasn't conflict between me and him. It was conflict between me and my goals. And that's the best place for me to call me out. So 10x is easier than 2x. Great book. Words fucking matter. We'll mention all the books.
Great
Words
book.
Fucking matter. Yeah. Available on Amazon. Casey, thank you so much for taking time today. We will have him again on the show here and whatever. Anytime, man. When our calendars allow it to happen. All right. On behalf of Casey, I'm Andy Weins with Camo Crew Responsible Junk Removal. Taylor, our producer, another great episode of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. Next week, we have Dan from Dan's Junk Removal, longtime listener, first-time caller. Coming to the show, we're going to talk to Dan about how we got into this amazing industry. The other thing coming up, earlier this week, we had my business partner, our integrator, Andrew Crum, on the show. And the week before that, I was challenged by our new marketing content guru. She said that we should have more people within our company on the show to talk how we got to where we're at, because that's a much different conversation. So over the next couple months, I will start interviewing all the players, all the people I talk about here on the show, Jerome and Casey and Mike and our new marketing person, Claire. So start talking to them on the show so we can start seeing the inner workings of Camo Crew. So that's what's coming up. We're coming up on season 4 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. So season 4 will express more and more of what we're doing here at Camo Crew, makes us successful, and how you can repeat that in your business. So thank you, Casey. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, our listeners, for continuing. And we will see you next week here on the Trash Talk Business Podcast. Bye now.
Thanks for listening. Tap subscribe or follow to get the latest episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a review and tell a friend to listen. To learn more, visit trashtalkbusinesspodcast.com. Bye now.